Right, thank you very much for 3 talks, and now I'm throwing open for comments and questions. Yes?
I wanted to ask Nora about Stella Sulioti, who I've met, and I read the book. And I didn't put her into my Women for Cyprus. And I wondered what you thought about whether she was really a model for women, because nobody came after her, and whether she realised that. So did you know her well enough to know whether she actually cultivated other women? She seemed like a one-off, rather like Margaret Thatcher, except completely different and much more productive, I would say, in my judgment for Cyprus. Can you say?
I don't know about politics, so I can't really make any comments on that, but I know on the Red Cross side, if you like, she was a mentor to Lida Busumba, who is currently the vice president of the Red Cross, and I think she works also very closely with the current president, Fotini Papadopoulou. So I think on the Red Cross side, or if you like on the volunteering side, she has been a mentor to quite a few people. I don't think she distinguishes between men or women, but to quite a few people. So on that side, yes.
John?
I have met Sulioti on several occasions. The impression she gave me was that she was a woman for different kinds. The term aristocrat was used by Tabitha yesterday in secret society. I would call the Sulioti, the Kavrianis family, an aristocratic family. It was they got a lot of experience, knowledge by their close contact with the British. Sulioti was of that kind, and it was very difficult for somebody else to follow up as a woman or as a man, really. Because after her inclusion in the cabinet of Makarios, the new political people were very political, and nothing like the majestic behavior and appearance of Sulioti reappeared.
I must say that I was in the theatre when she received, in 2010, when she received her prize at the Madame Figaro Awards, and obviously she was very old, but she made that impression to me just by standing up and receiving her prize and talking a little bit of a woman of a different, and also quite humble.
Yes. Very low key.
Very, very low key, yes.
I think when you felt the future.
It was answered. I was going to ask, John already answered it.
Sorry. But you can, she chaired the committee for the scholarships. When the Republic was established, a lot of countries offer scholarships to the youth of the Republic. And nobody made a comment against Stella Kavrianis about ill management of those scholarships. Where do you get that now?
Isn't it true to
Sorry,
say
sorry.
that she has
Elizabeth.
been the role model of very many Cypriot women today, especially not just in law, but in any other subject that they have been pursuing?
I think she opened quite a few doors, but maybe she was a little bit ahead of her time, and it took a little bit longer for the rest of the women to catch up.
Elizabeth, and then...
Well, it sounds like her brother should do a film about her.
That's
He
right.
died. You're talking about Michalis Kagogiannis.
Yeah.
He died before Stella Sulioti. Both her brothers are dead,
I see.
so they died before her.
I wanted to ask Katerina, I think this is such a wonderful initiative to help establish a national opera house. Could you just say a little more about opera in Cyprus? I know there's a Paphos opera
Yes.
house. Are there other regional opera houses?
Yeah, it's not an opera house at all. It's just a festival. It's the Paphos Festival and actually I wanted to talk, but I wanted to explore more subjects on this. It is a festival, and Cyprus spends hundreds of thousands of euro every year. In the past, it would be even more. But now, with the financial crisis, is less. To recruit opera companies from abroad to come in and perform their shows. Now, these opera companies does not mean that they bring even their best singers. You know, they're touring artists. What I'm saying is that there is no opera house in Cyprus. There is no national opera of Cyprus, and it's about time that we form this. There is incredible talent on the island. We could definitely form the chorus, the Cyprus National Opera Chorus can be formed, and we can spend that money to form our own opera house. In that way, we can then make money. It's going to be a win-win situation. At the moment, it's a lose-lose situation because we're spending money to bring in other opera companies to perform. Why? When we have singers, when it's possible, we have singers, we have directors, we have very capable pianists that would work as repetitors, we have amazing conductors, we have everything. Then, of course, as an opera company, you will be recruiting specific singers from abroad to make it shine even more, but you will be giving the opportunity to the Cypriot singers as well to perform.
Well, I just wish there were a piano here so we could hear you sing.
No, but
If I may add.
Actually, sorry Nora, we did have the pleasure of hearing Katerina at this place. Some years back, the center organized a conference in honor of the late Leventis, whose family was and is a great benefactor to our activities.
and whose I was a
And
scholar as well.
Alcoto impressed me that Karina came along with Konstantinos Styrianou and they performed. We had to bring the piano through back window. We just managed to do it. We had tremendous trouble taking it in. But could touch you much more.
I'm sure it was
the
worth the
appreciation
effort.
that both our guests, the musical guests, gave to the family on their own behalf.
Indeed.
If I may say a short comment for the late Stelios Oyotou, and I'm very pleased you choose her to profile her. As a photographer and cameraman, every time we go to interview her, we didn't go there to do her image, but her intellect and her standing. And her substance.
What I wanted to add, if I may, to what you were saying is that the choir has been composed, put together this summer in Cyprus, of Cypriot singers.
Yes, I know. I am
so
aware
they started,
of this.
So
I
they
am aware
started
of
a little
this.
bit. So maybe
They started now in the Paphos Festival to include the Symphony Orchestra of Cyprus and some of the singers, Cypriot singers, to form the choir. But I mean, Kozifan Dude has a very small choir.
no, I'm just saying that
Yeah,
maybe
but
it's moving
We're
in the,
starting in
Yeah.
this direction, but this is not an action that's coming from united forces.
no.
I noticed that each one individual is trying to do little steps forward, and this is not going to form or help forming the National Opera of Cyprus. Cyprus National Opera has to be an organization which is going to represent an opera company representing the island. There are little companies now, but they're not professional, you see. There has to be a difference.
I think it's a really exciting idea, but I get the feeling from what you're saying it's still rather embryonic.
Yes, it's
It does,
embryonic,
yes,
but
does.
I want to do my best to get this going.
Good luck.
Yes, may I? Just two brief comments. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers for their inspirational presentations. Thank you very much. Nora mentioned a term that is very frequently used in gender studies, the glass ceiling phenomenon, which unfortunately in Cyprus is very intense. And Stelios Oyotou has been a historical figure in the history of contemporary Cyprus who managed to can break gender boundaries and achieve an excellent career in many male-dominated areas. So she entered the male sphere and managed to survive. And I would like to stress the fact that I believe gender discrimination is the result of a very strong hegemonic model of patriarchal masculinity and the patriarchal way of organizing the private and the public sphere in Cyprus, which unfortunately puts pressure and discriminates far more people than women alone. It oppresses a lot of other types of alternative or subordinate types of masculinity, which also suffer from this strict model of patriarchal family organization, political organization, professional organization, etc. So patriarchy in Cyprus is still very intense. And perhaps it would be a positive impact of the financial crisis that will shake this model towards something more egalitarian for all parts of Cyprus population. And in addition to that, I would like to mention that this is the result of another term that is very intense in Cyprus as well, the homeostasis of Cyprus society. And homeostasis in social sciences, it is used to describe the tendency of a social structure to maintain itself in the current situation. So when in Cyprus we have a long history of patriarchy, it is very, very, very hard to change due to the homeostasis. So things do not change so easily in Cyprus. I hope we are in the process of changing things and making things how they egalitarian towards everybody, and I'm not talking about discriminations against men. We don't want to achieve that, but we definitely want to achieve egalitarian status for everybody. And another brief comment that connects mostly to Katerina Smina's presentation is that indeed the problem of artists sustaining themselves abroad or in Cyprus, I don't think it's only a gender problem. Perhaps it's more intense for women, but artists in general are a very vulnerable community in terms of sustaining themselves.
Yes.
And what I want to emphasize is that Cyprus High Commission has put that in very high priority. We want to support young people in the beginning of their careers who want to achieve more in the UK or in Cyprus. But I cannot stress enough how high in our priorities is to help these people in the beginning of their careers
It's wonderful.
to achieve high goals.
Yes, they need that. And of course, I had to, in a way, focus a little bit my talk more within the sopranos and mezzo-sopranos because I'm also a woman in this. But in the end, I was talking generally about the operatic singers of Cyprus. And why not? It could be that some women of Cyprus, I can name 4 or 5 of them, that are financially privileged and powerful. We have to start feeling more that we want to be philanthropists. That's something that's perhaps missing in the society. They have to come forward. Perhaps this will be formed by women. Is no problem with this. But let us make a start. And it may well be that it will be done in stages because a national opera needs to have its own house. Of course, it's a very costly project. And we had the Megaron project is no longer happening. All this money that went into planning it and everything. But it could be that at the beginning, the Cyprus National Opera can be hosted or housed in another theatre. For instance, you have the theatre of the National Theatre of Cyprus, which is a new theatre. It has all the facilities. But we need to see the people working together, uniting and working together. Why not? Why not using that theatre at the beginning to host and house the opera company as well?
You refer to the Folk New Theatre?
The new theatre, yes. It has all the facilities.
I know what it's like when you give a speech and nobody mentions your talk. So I just want to say that I'm very interested by what Mary said about maybe men don't think they have to dominate the arts or the art in Cyprus in the way they have to dominate the politics and the sport and the other things. So I'm very interested in your idea. We also had a conversation about it, so I don't
Yes.
feel I have to open up about that.
Yes.
But I wondered whether Katerina had thought about getting Stelios Hadjianou to fund something, because I think you need seed money, and if he showed an interest, and the way he would show an interest would be if you could show that there are Turkish Cypriot singers as well as Greek Cypriots who would be part of this national enterprise, and I think then it would work, and it would also be symbolic of a Cyprus that is working together and has got its.
Of course.
So you probably know that there are Turkish Cypriot singers.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know this. But I mean, and I will say this into the camera. I don't mind. I have tried approaching Stelios a few times, and he is not that approachable or easily approachable.
But he has got these prizes where he just concentrates on things where
Well, I'll
Cypriots
send him a
are strong.
Facebook
Try
message
him
this
again.
time saying, you know, but to the point.
Get Turkish
more
Cypriot
into
to apply with you.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
He's more into the young entrepreneurs, so his prizes are into
This is
young
entrepreneurs. This is an entrepreneur.
You know, yeah.
But the other house, we're talking about millions. I don't think we're talking about thousands. And his prizes or the money supports that he gives are around between 10 and 50,000 euro. So it's for young people that are moving on and
Yes.
environment a bit. So I think maybe he's not so much into the music.
But maybe he could come in a little bit later on, because when
Yeah,
you
I'm
form
sure.
a national opera, you will have also schemes like bursaries. This is so needed, because these singers, they cannot go out, they cannot afford it. Unless they come out here and they start working in anything to sustain themselves. But not everybody is determined, is so determined, like I was, for instance.
No, I'm not saying
So
that.
bursaries, he could maybe come in and be an offer. It could be a Stelios Hadjianou bursary for.
Let's do a presentation then in an open house and invite all these people
Yes.
and tell them.
Yes, that would be
Closed doors
fantastic.
so they can't get away.
Closed doors, they can't get away. I want them to get away.
Look, we lure them in with false pretenses, and then once they're sitting there and say, this is what we want from you.
Okay, can someone get me Stelios then? Because directly he's not answering my messages on Facebook. He's my friend though. On Facebook.
Yes.
Have you ever thought of approaching legal firms or accountancy firms, professional organizations? Because in the UK, the majority of the big professional firms support the arts in every way possible. I used to run a travel company for the British Museum, where we had enormous support for various trips that we had abroad, accompanied by curators from the museum for 60, 70 different destinations. BP, for instance, in the UK, supports the big funds the big lecture room at the British Museum. So I think we have got enough professional firms in Cyprus, very, very, very strong, enormously wealthy, from what I hear.
No. It's a difficult time, and I think the one-to-one approach doesn't work very much. Now one needs to bring all these people in one room so that they get embarrassed if one doesn't give and the other gives. You need to embarrass them into contributing. Otherwise, they won't. If you see them one-to-one, they will say, I'm very sorry, I've been, my money was taken because of the economic crisis and
Yes,
so
it's the
forth.
excuse now for everything
Yeah.
to do, anything to do
Yeah,
with
but
that.
if you
This is
have
the
them,
excuse.
this is what I've decided, this
My
is what I am
fingers go
doing now.
down as
Now I
well.
am embarrassing people to give me money for the events that I want to do. It's the only way.
Okay, I'm up for this challenge. I'm up for it. Let's bring them in the room.
Yeah.
I think we speak only about money, but in Cyprus, what we see from outside Cyprus, we have a lot of people over-educated. But what is missing is the streetwise, the culture. Is not only to have a foundation, let's say, and give money, but if Abuel team, let's say, start his first team and ask a soprano to sing inside the play, it will be a big exposure. But we don't have this wide street. They have education. If the parties in Cyprus, instead of putting all this glamorous face, they have to start their conference, the talk, with an art, to have an art inside. But you have to teach them. They have education, they know how to talk, but to implement those, you need to teach them how to implement and love art and sopranos and singers. We love singers that is populist. I was reading today, somebody from Canada sent me an email, and they take Talaras there, and they would spend £100,000 to take Talaras and to go to here. You pay $200.
No, they will spend more than $100,000. His fee is $250,000, so it's
even more.
So it's a lot.
We brought him here to sing for the refugees, and it cost us £50,000.
One more comment.
So,
I'm an environmentalist, so I'm saying this with a heavy heart, but what that gentleman had to say, mentioning BP, which of course gets a lot of opposition because of its support for the arts here. However, since Cyprus has just discovered gas, and I understand from last night's discussion that the island is now overrun with international oil companies keen to dig this up, even though I'm against fossil fuels, this might be a happy convergence of the need for significant funds for your opera, National Opera Company, and some of these international oil firms.
Absolutely.
Well, I think, I am in this kind of business myself. I think you missed something. You need a policy by the government.
Yes.
You need a minister of art.
Well, we've got
He
the
needs-
we've got the council, the cultural council
Well,
with us now.
he has no power. You need a minister. You need a minister of art. In every country of the
I
world.
belong to the Ministry of
Nobody said
Education
you
and
could
Culture.
knock on his door.
You need a minister of art like that. Minister
So
like
you need the
that.
minister.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, all three speakers, and we can say this is a very practical outcome. Cyprus started here. Well done. Now, before we move on, so thank you to all the speakers and the contributors.